In the grand tapestry of galactic screw-ups, humanity's entrance to the interstellar community ranked somewhere between accidental nova and that time the Kreslians tried to breathe vacuum because someone told them it was slimming. It began, as most things do on Earth, with someone trying to pirate content they shouldn't. Dave Loomis, a 37-year-old network engineer from Tulsa, had been attempting to intercept premium satellite channels when his jury-rigged dish captured something else entirely, the Galactic Confederation's equivalent of a conference call, specifically their quarterly budget meeting. By the time government officials confiscated Dave's equipment, half of YouTube had seen the footage of 14 different alien species arguing over expense reports and proper starship maintenance schedules. First contact had been achieved not through dignified ambassadorial exchange, but via an accounting dispute about whether wormhole lubricant was a legitimate business expense. 3 weeks later, Earth received its first official visitors. The landing was spectacular. The welcoming ceremony was majestic. The subsequent military evaluation was less impressive. You propel your projectiles with chemical explosions? High Admiral Zook of the Confederation Military Council couldn't keep the disdain from his voice, which sounded like gravel in a blender even through the universal translator. His 4 eyes blinked asynchronously at the display of Earth's finest weapons. General Patricia Blackwell of the United Nations Defense Force stood at attention, her chest covered in medals that suddenly felt as significant as plastic toys. Our ballistic technology is quite advanced for our development stage, she insisted. Another alien, this one resembling a cross between a manta ray and a pine tree, emitted a series of whistles that the translator rendered as barely contained laughter. They don't even have basic molecular disassemblers. Can you believe it? Now, Greg Thal admonished a blue-skinned delegate. Remember, the Dravidi were still using pointed sticks when we found them. You look how they've progressed in just 8 centuries. The assembled human military delegation shifted uncomfortably. Representatives from every major Earth power had brought their most impressive hardware, stealth aircraft, prototype energy weapons, even a few experimental exoskeletons. None of it had elicited more than patronizing chuckles from the aliens. Perhaps, rumbled a massive creature that appeared to be made primarily of crystalline structures and bad attitude, we should simply assign them protectorate status and move on. There's a nova cluster in Sector 87 that needs surveying. No, came a sharp voice from the back of the alien delegation. The bylaws of Confederation clearly state that all sentient species must be evaluated for martial capability before classification. The aliens parted, revealing a figure that made several human generals instinctively reach for sidearms that had been diplomatically left behind. Standing just over 2 meters tall, with grey-blue skin stretched taut over a frame that suggested both flexibility and strength, the alien moved with predatory grace. Where the other Confederation representatives wore colorful ceremonial garb, this one was encased in what was unmistakably battle armor, matted black with glowing violet seams. A series of scars crisscrossed what was visible of its face, including one that had clearly cost it an eye, now replaced with a cybernetic implant that whirred softly as it focused on the humans. "Commander Vex'Tor," murmured High Admiral Zook, his tone notably less dismissive. "Your presence is unexpected." "The Directorate felt this evaluation warranted special attention," replied Vex'Tor, voice like steel dragged over granite. "After the Ergosi incident." Several aliens flinched at the mention. "That was an aberration," Zook protested. 3 Confederation battle cruisers lost to a pre-FTL species disagrees with your assessment, Vex'Tor countered, stepping forward to examine a display of human tactical information. "I will conduct this evaluation personally." "Pardon," General Blackwell cleared her throat. "The Commander, we would be honored to demonstrate our military capabilities in appropriate field exercises." The cybernetic eyes swiveled toward her, its violet glow intensifying. "Your projectile weapons and primitive armor are irrelevant, General. The true measure of a species' combat potential lies elsewhere." "I don't understand," Blackwell said. Vex'Tor's facial features rearranged into what might have been a smile on a creature with less teeth. "No, you wouldn't. That's precisely why I'm here." Commander Vex'Tor's temporary office in the United Nations complex was Spartan by human standards, which meant it was practically palatial by his. The warrior had spent most of his 3-century career in battlefield command centers or the cramped quarters of scout ships. A room with actual windows seemed needlessly extravagant. "These files are incomplete," he growled at the human liaison officer, a nervous man named Lieutenant Davis, who kept eyeing the plasma dagger mounted on Vex'Tor's hip. "Sir, those contain the service records of our top special forces operators from every major military power. SEALs, Spetsnaz, SAS." "Irrelevant," Vex'Tor cut him off, tossing the data tablet aside. "Your military personnel are too obvious." "Obvious?" Davis blinked rapidly. "They're elite soldiers." Precisely the problem. Vex'Tor stood and moved to the window, watching humans scurrying about below. "Your designated warriors are competent by your standards, but painfully predictable by ours. The Confederation has catalogued over 6,000 species combat methodologies. Traditional military thinking is a finite space. I don't understand what you're looking for, then." The commander's cybernetic eye whirred as it focused on something in the distance. "Tell me, Lieutenant, what is that structure across the plaza, the one with the small humans entering it?" "That's Lincoln Elementary School, sir." "School? Your education center for juvenile humans." Vex'Tor made a sound that might have been a chuckle if it didn't resemble grinding gears. "I wish to visit it." 3 hours later, Lieutenant Davis was desperately trying to explain to the principal why an alien military commander was observing Mr. Murphy's 5th-grade science class. "His enthusiasm for chemical reactions is noteworthy," Vex'Tor commented afterward, making notes in a device strapped to his forearm, and a female instructor in the adjacent room. "Mrs. Gonzalez, the math teacher. Her strategic approach to numerical distribution problems shows tactical promise." Davis rubbed his temples. "Sir, with all due respect, these are teachers, not soldiers." Vex'Tor's head tilted at an angle that made Davis's neck hurt just looking at it. That distinction may be uniquely human and uniquely dangerous. The following week became increasingly bizarre. Vex'Tor rejected invitations to observe military exercises, instead visiting places that left his human handlers bewildered: gardening clubs, construction sites, retirement communities, and even an esports tournament. "This is absurd," General Blackwell complained during an emergency briefing. "The fate of Earth standing in the Galactic Confederation hangs in the balance, and this alien is watching cooking shows and home improvement stores." "He spent 3 hours yesterday interviewing a high school chemistry teacher named Jack Murphy," Lieutenant Davis reported. "Asked him detailed questions about household chemicals and their potential reactions." Admiral Chen from Naval Intelligence leaned forward. "Does he suspect something about Murphy?" "That's just it, sir. Murphy's record is completely clean. 20 years teaching chemistry, coaches the chess club, makes soap as a hobby. He's about as threatening as a golden retriever." "The commander has made his initial selection," announced a new voice. The Confederation liaison officer, a willowy being named Trill, had entered silently. "He requests these humans report to Confederation Evaluation Center Alpha tomorrow at 0800 hours. She handed over a data tablet. General Blackwell's expression cycled through confusion, disbelief, and outright anger as she read the list. "This is a joke, right? A chemistry teacher, a demolition expert from a construction company, a gardener, a grandmother, and what the hell is a professional speedrunner?" Trill's face tentacles rippled in what might have been amusement. "Commander Vex'Tor rarely jokes, General. In fact, I'm not certain he's physiologically capable of humor. But these aren't soldiers." "Perhaps that's precisely why he selected them," Trill suggested. "Vex'Tor has overseen the integration of 27 species into the Confederation's defense forces. His methods are unconventional, but his results are undeniable." Davis couldn't help asking, what happens if these people fail whatever test he has planned? Trill's face tentacles stilled. Earth would be classified as a protected developing world, essentially a nature preserve with limited self-governance. And if they succeed, then the galaxy may never sleep soundly again. Trill paused. I believe your species has an expression. God help us all. Jack Murphy arrived at the designated pickup point 15 minutes early because that's the kind of person he was: punctual, prepared, and perpetually carrying a travel mug of coffee strong enough to dissolve spoons. At 52, with salt and pepper hair and reading glasses perpetually perched on his nose, he looked exactly like what he was: a dedicated chemistry teacher with a passion for explaining valence electrons to uninterested teenagers. Mr. Murphy? A woman approached, clipboard in hand. I'm Maria Diaz. They told me to check in with you. Jack nodded. You're the construction expert. Demolition specialist, she corrected, extending a calloused hand. Maria stood barely 5'4" but carried herself with the confidence of someone who regularly told multi-ton wrecking balls where to swing. 20 years taking down buildings without scratching the ones next door. Fascinating application of precision kinetics, remarked a soft voice behind them. A slender man with careful movements offered a slight bow. Raj Patel. I tend gardens at the Botanical Conservatory. Before they could continue introductions, a bright yellow Volkswagen Beetle screeched into the parking lot, coming to a dramatic halt inches from a trash can. A woman who had to be in her 70s emerged, straightening a floral blouse. Terribly sorry I'm nearly late. Had to drop off muffins at the community center. She bustled over with remarkable speed. Daphne Williams. Former Girl Scout troop leader, current neighborhood watch captain, and grandmother of 6. Which one of you is in charge? Jack raised his hand halfway. I don't think any of us is in. Wait up. The shout came from a lanky young man sprinting across the parking lot, a backpack bouncing wildly against his shoulders. He skidded to a stop before them, panting. Tyler Nakamura. Sorry. Stayed up all night breaking the world record for speed running Elden Galaxy, 37 minutes flat. Had to document it for the leaderboards. They stood in awkward silence, 5 humans with seemingly nothing in common except a bizarre summons from an alien military commander. Does anyone actually know why we're here? Maria finally asked. Jack shrugged. The official said something about specialized human potential evaluation. I thought it was a gardening consultation, Raj admitted, for the new Confederation embassy. I assumed it was about my petition to include cookie sales in the interplanetary trade agreement, Daphne said, completely seriously. Tyler adjusted his gaming headset, which he apparently wore everywhere. My Twitch followers think I'm being recruited for some secret alien esports league. Their speculation ended as a sleek shuttle descended from the sky, touching down with barely a whisper. The boarding ramp extended, revealing Commander Vex'Tor's imposing figure. You have been selected for evaluation, he announced without preamble. You board immediately. Evaluation for what exactly? Maria demanded, crossing her arms. The commander's cybernetic eye focused on her with an audible whir, to determine if your planet deserves respect or pity. Well, when you put it that way, Jack chuckled nervously, how can we refuse? 30 minutes and one terrifyingly casual violation of Earth's atmosphere later, they found themselves aboard a Confederation evaluation vessel in orbit. Lieutenant Davis was waiting, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Welcome aboard, he said hollowly. I've been instructed to brief you on the situation. The briefing room resembled a conference room designed by someone who'd only had conference rooms described to them, almost right, but unsettlingly wrong in minor details. The chairs were slightly too high, the table faintly luminescent. The Confederation evaluates all new species for their potential contribution to galactic security, Davis explained. Commander Vex'Tor believes you 5 represent something uniquely human. Tyler laughed. I once got winded opening a particularly stubborn jar of salsa. I don't even own a gun, Jack added. Daphne raised her hand. I do have a black belt in Tai Chi, but that's more for my arthritis than combat. Davis sighed. I don't understand it either, but apparently conventional military prowess isn't what the commander is looking for. The door slid open, and Vex'Tor entered, accompanied by 3 other aliens of different species. These humans appear even less impressive in person, sniffed a hovering creature that resembled an inside-out umbrella. "Are you certain about this, Commander?" "Observe their environments," Vex'Tor replied. "The teacher works daily with substances that, combined improperly, could level their learning facility. The demolition expert routinely calculates how to collapse structures weighing thousands of tons. The gardener cultivates plants containing compounds lethal to most carbon-based life. The elder has trained hundreds of young humans in survival tactics. And this, one, he gestured to Tyler, mentally processes complex tactical scenarios at speeds that would impress Quantek's battle computers." The 5 humans exchanged uncomfortable glances. "When you put it that way," Jack said slowly, "we sound terrifying." Vex'Tor's facial muscles arranged into what might have been a smile. "Precisely." The Confederation training facility resembled a cross between a military base and an IKEA showroom, sleek, modular, and inexplicably maze-like. The 5 humans were issued matching jumpsuits in a shade of blue that Jack described as aggressively cerulean. "These garments analyze your biometrics and protect against minor environmental hazards," explained their instructor, a 4-armed being named Krex, who clearly considered this assignment a demotion. "Try not to die in them. The paperwork is excessive." "Comforting," Maria muttered. Their first lesson involved standard-issue Confederation weaponry. Krex demonstrated a sleek plasma rifle with obvious pride. "This XR-7 disruptor can vaporize targets at 200 meters with pinpoint accuracy. Observe." He fired at a distant target, which disappeared in a flash of purple light. Tyler whistled. "Just like in Galaxy Commando 5. Your turn." Krex handed the weapon to Jack, who held it like it might bite him. "I've never fired anything more dangerous than a T-shirt cannon at pep rallies," Jack admitted. "Just aim and pull the trigger," Krex sighed. Jack squinted at the target, adjusted his stance, and fired. The recoil sent him sprawling backward as the shot went wide, hitting a storage unit containing what turned out to be highly reactive cleaning supplies. The resulting explosion painted half the training floor with luminescent foam that hardened instantly. "Interesting," noted Vex'Tor, who had been observing silently. "He created a more effective area denial weapon by accident than our specialized units achieve with dedicated equipment." Krex's multiple eyes blinked in sequence. "That was a failure." "Was it?" Vex'Tor countered. "Continue." Things deteriorated further during tactical exercises. When instructed to clear a simulated building, Raj bypassed the entire combat scenario by identifying structural weak points in the holographic projection system and causing it to glitch out. "I simply noticed the emission pattern resembled the growth habits of Hedera helix English ivy," he explained with a modest shrug. "Both seek paths of least resistance." Daphne, given a standard field medical kit, immediately reorganized it according to her own system, somehow doubling its effective capacity in the process. "Young man," she told a flustered Krex, "I've packed overnight bags for 6 grandchildren simultaneously. This is amateur hour." Maria proved equally disruptive during demolitions training. When tasked with disabling a shielded target, she ignored the provided explosives entirely. "These energy shields oscillate at regular intervals," she observed, tapping the barrier with a fingernail. "It's just like harmonic resonance in structural steel. Give me something that vibrates at exactly 32.7 Hertz. 2 minutes later, the supposedly impenetrable shield shattered like glass. Tyler's performance in the tactical simulator caused the most commotion. Faced with an unwinnable scenario, he approached it like a video game speedrun, exploring the environment for exploitable patterns. "The enemy AI uses the same attack rotations," he explained while effortlessly evading plasma fire. "There's a 60-frame window after the 3rd volley where he executed a maneuver that should have been physically impossible, somehow ending up behind the simulated enemies. Boom. Geometry exploit." The alien observers watched in growing consternation. "This is unprecedented," muttered one. "It's undisciplined chaos," countered another. Vex'Tor remained impassive. "It is human." After a week of similar incidents, the training staff called an emergency meeting. Krex delivered his report with the demeanor of someone suffering an extended nervous breakdown. They're impossible. They don't follow protocols, they ignore established tactical doctrine, and they keep asking about lunch breaks. And yet, Vex'Tor noted, their effectiveness ratings exceed those of trained soldiers from 7 Confederation species. By breaking everything. Krex's multiple arms gestured wildly. The chemistry teacher keeps combining our standard issue supplies into unauthorized compounds. Yesterday he created an adhesive that fused senior instructor Vrax to the ceiling. Is Vrax still functional? Vex'Tor inquired. Yes, but... Then the human demonstrated effective non-lethal restraint techniques. A priority communication interrupted the debate. All screens in the facility displayed the same urgent message. Confederation outpost Sigma 9 had gone silent after reporting contact with a Vex'Tor scout vessel. The room fell silent. Even Krex's complaints died in his throat. The Vex'Tor, whispered one of the instructors. They've returned. Vex'Tor's cybernetic eye glowed more intensely. To prepare a transport. We deploy immediately. Surely you don't intend to bring these humans into actual combat? Krex sputtered. No, Vex'Tor agreed, his expression unreadable. I intend to bring them to actual victory. Outpost Sigma 9 orbited a nondescript gas giant in what humans would consider the galactic equivalent of Nebraska, unremarkable, but strategically located near several hyperspace lanes. The station's normal population of 200 had been supplemented by a Confederation rapid response team after the initial alert. Now both groups were in retreat. Status report. Vex'Tor demanded as their transport approached the besieged station. The station commander's hologram flickered. Vex'Tor boarding parties have taken the lower 3 quadrants. We've sealed emergency bulkheads, but they're cutting through faster than we can reroute systems, conventional weapons, proving ineffective against their new shielding. Casualties? 27 confirmed. 42 missing. The commander's multiple eyes blinked nervously. They're taking prisoners, Commander. The Vex'Tor never take prisoners. Jack raised his hand like he was in a classroom. Excuse me, but what exactly are Vex'Tor? Lieutenant Davis answered, his voice low. Sentient predators. They hunt other species for sport and resources. The Confederation fought a war against them a century ago that nearly ended in mutual extinction. They've been dormant until now, and we're heading right toward them, Tyler squeaked. That's like speedrunning life with permadeath enabled. Your presence is not optional, Vex'Tor stated flatly. Observe. The view screen showed footage from inside the station. Armored figures moved with preternatural grace, their exoskeletons resembling a cross between insects and medieval plate armor. Where their faces should be, only reflective black visors showed, occasionally flickering with symbols in an alien script. They're hunting, Maria observed. Those aren't military formations. Correct. Vex'Tor nodded. The Vex'Tor consider combat a religious art form. They don't conquer, they harvest. Harvest what exactly? Daphne asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the terrible answer. Whatever they find valuable. Technology, resources. Vex'Tor paused. Biological specimens. Raj studied the footage with surprising calm. Their armor appears to have external fluid circulation systems. Interesting vulnerability. Confederation forces have deployed our most advanced weaponry with minimal effect, Vex'Tor said. The Vex'Tor adapt quickly. So do we, Jack replied, surprising himself with his steady voice. That's kind of humanity's whole thing. The transport docked at an emergency airlock on the station's upper quadrant. As they prepared to board, Vex'Tor handed each human a small device. Universal translators and emergency beacons, he explained. If your life functions cease, your bodies will be recovered for honorable memorial. Super reassuring, Tyler muttered. What's the plan? Maria asked. We're not soldiers. Vex'Tor's expression might have been a smile on a less terrifying face. No, you're something the Vex'Tor have never encountered. You're humans with ordinary jobs. That doesn't sound very threatening, Jack pointed out. Precisely why it will work, Vex'Tor replied. The Vex'Hari analyze and counter established military tactics. They have no protocols for whatever it is you five do. They entered the station through a maintenance corridor, moving quietly toward the command center. The artificial gravity fluctuated, evidence of damaged systems. I've uploaded station schematics to your datapads, Lieutenant Davis whispered. We need to reach the command center and re-establish control of environmental systems. Then what? Daphne asked. Then, Vex'Tor said, you do what humans do best, improvise in ways that terrify the rest of the galaxy. They hadn't gone 50 meters when they encountered their first Vex'Hari. The armored hunter materialized from a side passage, weapon raised. Before anyone could react, Tyler shoved Jack aside with a move clearly practiced in virtual reality. The boss attack pattern, he shouted. 30-frame vulnerability after the targeting laser. Sure enough, the Vex'Hari's weapon emitted a targeting beam that swept across them before firing exactly where they had been standing a moment before. The miss gave Vex'Tor the opening to engage, his plasma dagger flashing as he drove the hunter back. How did you know? Davis gasped as they retreated around a corner. Tyler shrugged. Their weapons system has the same telegraph as the raid bosses in Stellar Siege. Red laser, then boom. Standard game design. The human identified a tactical pattern in seconds that our military analysts missed after years of study, Vex'Tor noted with something like pride. A distant explosion rocked the station. They're breaching the primary life support hub, Davis reported. Then we need a new plan, Jack said, surprising himself by taking charge. Maria, what would you do if you needed to control a building demolition gone wrong? Maria's eyes lit up. Controlled counter collapses to channel the energy. Why? Jack turned to the others. I think I know how we can win this, but I'm going to need everyone's particular expertise, and possibly some cleaning supplies. The command center of Outpost Sigma-9 had been transformed into something between a last stand and a bizarre science fair project. Jack Murphy stood at the central console, surrounded by an array of repurposed containers filled with colorful liquids. You want to do what? Lieutenant Davis asked, his voice rising an octave. Create a cascading reaction through the ventilation system, Jack explained, mixing solutions with the precision of someone who'd spent decades preventing lab accidents. It won't harm organic tissue, but should temporarily disable their armor's external systems. With cleaning supplies and cafeteria condiments, Davis stared. Jack shrugged. Chemistry is chemistry, whether it's in a lab or a space station. The sodium polycarbonate in these cleaning solutions, when combined with the acidic compounds from what I assume is alien ketchup, creates a foam that. Less explaining, more mixing, Maria interrupted. She had spent the last 20 minutes studying the station's structural blueprints. I've identified weak points we can exploit. If we trigger a controlled collapse in Section 47B, it will channel the Vex'Hari into bottlenecks. Won't that damage the station beyond repair? Asked a Confederation security officer. Maria gave him a look professionals reserve for amateurs. I take down 60-story buildings without disturbing coffee cups in adjacent structures. Trust me. Meanwhile, Raj had been examining the station's botanical bay, which housed specimens from across the galaxy. These Thracian ferns secrete a paralytic compound when threatened, he noted, carefully handling the blue-tinged plants. Combined with these luminescent fungi, they should produce a non-lethal but highly effective countermeasure to their sensory systems. Daphne, for her part, had organized the station's remaining personnel with terrifying efficiency. Medical Team Alpha to Level 3, defensive positions at junctions marked with blue tape only. Support Team Charlie, distribute emergency rations and establish fallback points exactly 11 meters from each junction. How is she doing that? A Confederation officer whispered to Davis. She ran a Girl Scout troop for 30 years, Davis replied. Apparently managing 20 hyperactive children with access to matches translates well to crisis management. At the communications array, Tyler had wired his gaming headset into the station's systems and was rapidly typing. Their communications use predictable encryption patterns, he explained. Same backdoor vulnerabilities as the DLC enemies in Starfall Conquest, a classic developer oversight. Vex'Tor observed it all, his cybernetic eye recording everything. Commence Operation Home Improvement, Jack announced once preparations were complete, earning him confused looks from the aliens and groans from his fellow humans. What followed would later be described in Confederation military academies as controlled chaos unleashed by retail-grade weaponry. Jack's chemical concoction was pumped through the ventilation system, causing the Vex'Tor's armor to seize up as essential joints were gunned with rapidly expanding foam. Maria's strategic structural manipulations didn't collapse parts of the station so much as reshape them, forcing the invaders into kill boxes where Raj's botanical cocktail awaited them, aerosolized and dispersed by repurposed food processors. Daphne coordinated defense teams with the precision of someone who had spent decades managing bake sales and camping trips, anticipating needs before they arose and ensuring resources reached critical points exactly when needed. And Tyler, using insights gained from thousands of hours defeating digitally unfair opponents, identified and exploited patterns in Vex'Tor tactics, predicting their movements with uncanny accuracy. "They're retreating," Davis announced as the station's sensors showed Vex'Tor forces withdrawing to their ships. "I don't believe it." "Believe it," Jack said, observing the aftermath of their improvised defense. They expected soldiers with weapons. Instead, they got a chemistry teacher with a grudge against dirty floors. When the all-clear finally sounded, the 5 humans gathered in the command center. They were disheveled, exhausted, and somewhat surprised to be alive. "Did we just repel an invasion by an advanced alien species using household items?" Maria asked. "And gardening techniques," Raj added. "And scheduling skills," Daphne nodded. "And game exploits," Tyler grinned. Jack looked at his hands, still stained with chemical residue. "We did what humans have always done. We adapted, improvised, and used whatever was available." Vex'Tor approached, his alien features arranged in what they had come to recognize as satisfaction. "The Confederation has fought the Vex'Tor for generations using conventional warfare," he said. "You defeated them with cleaning products and garden plants. Does this mean Earth passes your evaluation?" Jack asked. "Usked." The Vex'Tor's cybernetic eye whirred softly. "It means the Confederation will never look at a human hardware store the same way again." 6 months later, Vex'Tor stood before the Galactic Security Council, presenting his final report. "Based on extensive evaluation, I recommend the immediate implementation of the Home Depot PayPal protocol for monitoring human civilian activities," he concluded. "Their deadliest soldiers do not wear uniforms or carry weapons. They teach chemistry. They garden, they build things. And most terrifying of all, they consider these activities hobbies." The Council voted unanimously to approve Earth's membership in the Confederation's defense force. They also quietly recommended that no alien species ever anger a human kindergarten teacher. Just to be safe.